I mean, first of all, the interesting thing about the financial transaction tax is that it has become an issue, a mainstream issue today, whereas before it was essentially a thing which was supported by leftist people. So as a result of the financial crisis, it has become an official proposal of the European Commission, and it's probably the most indicative sign of the change which has been brought about by the crisis. That something which was at the time adhered to by ONGs, leftist groups, extreme left groups, has now become a thing which has been formally proposed by the European Commission and is pushed by essentially two member states, France and Germany, to become an EU-wide measure. I'm personally not so much in favor for several reasons. Let's say, first of all, because the Commission itself, or the services within the Commission, did their impact assessment of the financial transaction tax and clearly stated in the reports which are published, which you can find on the Commission's website, that it was not such a good measure, that it would be unbalanced, would target certain centers, certain places more, certain countries more than others, and that therefore other measures were preferable, like as they call the financial activities tax, rather than a transactions tax. But also I think that it's given the debate today, rather unlikely that we will have a financial transaction tax, because a financial transaction tax, everything in the area of taxation at EU level, requires unanimity, meaning all the EU member states must agree on it. And that's, in this case, 27 member states. We already know that the UK is, well, opposed to this measure, but not only the UK is opposed, there are other states which probably do not express themselves for the moment, for sometimes understandable reasons, like Ireland, but also Luxembourg, or also Slovakia, or also probably Czech Republic or Estonia, most likely would be against. I mean, if you want to raise revenues, there are other forms of taxation of banks which are better than the transaction taxes. Transaction tax raises taxes on transactions, meaning it can also raise taxes on transactions done by non-financial corporations. For example, oil companies like Shell or like BP, which are involved in huge transactions of, for example, derivatives in oil contracts, would be targeted as well. So already from that perspective, you say, why should these companies be targeted as a result of the financial crisis? We essentially want to make the financial sector pay for the crisis. Why should then, therefore, all transactions be targeted? That's why another measure, as a form of a balance sheet tax of the financial sector, or a measure by which you tax all forms of wholesale funding by the financial sector, would be much more appropriate than a financial transaction tax. I think it's something like that. It's a way by which the EU wants to show its, or probably the Commission had wanted to show that it wants to react to the wishes by France and Germany to do something about this and to make itself popular in the eyes of the European public opinion. But it may also be a strategy to get to something lower, but to try to get the higher measure first, and in case, which is most likely now, they cannot achieve an agreement on a financial transaction tax, that they then may say, as London does not agree on the financial transaction tax, we will propose a financial activities tax, which is a form of a value-added tax on the banking sector, or a form of a balance sheet tax of the banking sector. And that may be the strategy of the Commission as well. I mean, that depends. If you have day traders, they will be affected. People who are kind of retired people who are just to earn a living, let's say, are betting on the stock markets, of course they will be affected. But it may affect other people as well. Let's say people which are having their living indirectly from financial centers will also be affected. A tax always has an impact not only on those, let's say, which you directly target, but has always had indirect effects. So in that case, there will certainly be indirect effects, which probably we don't think of today. I mean, there is, in fact, there are already countries which have a financial transaction tax, like the UK itself has a stamp duty, but which is only applicable, if I'm correct, which is only applicable on equity transactions, so not on transactions in the bond markets or in the derivatives markets. So it is fairly easy, let's say, to apply and, let's say, to put in practice. But of course, there will always be immediately lawyers and people thinking about how could I avoid this. But the clearest example of an avoidance would be that other financial centers outside the EU, if we were to enforce it at EU level, would benefit, and that transactions or kind of high I mean, high-frequency trading firms, for example, would move to places which do not have a tax. And that would be the most obvious victims of such a tax are high-frequency trading firms, which is, in fact, one of the reasons why they want to enforce this, because politicians think, let's say, that high-frequency trading is detrimental and hasn't got a positive impact on the economy. That's why they want to specifically target these kind of firms. But it's clear that these firms, you will not outlaw these firms by doing this. They will simply move to other jurisdictions or to the United States or, for example, to Singapore or other places, other financial centers globally.